There are countless architects around the world who has created and developed a unique, astonishing architecture. Many of us have passed away by planting buildings nonchalantly. Although some buildings have the capability to catch our eyes and allow us to appreciate the design, it is unusual to discover buildings that completely change the knowledge you knew about architecture. So what makes Zaha Hadid different? Known as an architect who consistently pushed the boundaries of architecture and urban design, her work experiments in a new spatial concept intensifying existing urban landscapes and encompassing all fields of design. From the urban scale to interiors and furniture, LaSalle was intensely futuristic architecture characterized by the curving facades and the sharp angle and the using materials such as concrete and steel. She took the strongest materials in the world and manipulated them to form an object that appears soft and sturdy at the same time. Her buildings are eye-catching and have a unique shape, style, and quality to them that makes us the structure iconic. Therefore, this was Zaha Hadid's specialty.
Zaha Hadid was an Iraqi-British architect who was the first woman to be awarded the Pritzker Architecture Prize in 2004. She was born in Baghdad in Iraq and commenced her college studies at the American University in Beirut in the field of mathematics. She then moved to London in 1972 to study architecture at the Architectural Association, and upon her graduation in 1977, she then joined the Office of Metropolitan Architecture, also known as the OMA. She also taught at the Architectural Association with the OMA collaborators, Ram Kulhaz and Elia Zenghalis. She also began her own practice, Zaha Hadid Architects, in London in 1980s.
In 1983, Hadid gained international recognition with her competition-winning entry for The Peak, a leisure and recreational center in Hong Kong. Her design for The Peak was never realized, nor were most of her other radical designs in the 1980s and early 90s. This resulted Hadid began to be known as a paper architect, meaning that her designs were too avant-garde to move beyond the sketch phase and actually be built. This impression of her was heightened when her beautifully rendered design, often in the form of exquisitely detailed color paintings, were exhibited as work of art in major museums.
I think that, for example, very early on when we were doing the Vitra fire station, the budget was very small. It was kind of, at the time, the engineering was quite, it was very difficult, not difficult, kind of ambitious structural project, and, we had to kind of really reduce the elements to only the most required elements. So every element in the project acts as a structural element, and there was no other access. So let's say there was no decorative elements. So it was purely based on structure and requirement of spatial requirement.
One of her first design was the Vitra fire station, designed for the factory complex of the same name in Weil am Rhein, Germany. The buildings obliquely intersecting concrete planes, which serve to shape and define the street running through the complex, represent the earliest attempt to translate Hadid's fantastical, powerful conceptual drawing into a functional architectural space. Composed of a series of sharply angled planes, the structure resembles a bird in flight.
One of her most famous achievements was to become the first woman to receive the Pritzker Architecture Prize at the age of 53.
As it happens to win the Pritzker Prize.
Very much. Zaha, could you come up?
The purpose of the Pritzker Architecture Prize is to honor living architects or architects whose built work demonstrates a combination of talent, vision, and commitment, and has produced consistent and significant contributions to humanity and the built environment through the art of architecture. In all these projects, Hadid further explored her interest in creating interconnecting spaces with a dynamic sculptural form of architecture, in which she solidified her reputation as an architect of built works in the year 2000. When the work began on her design for a new Louis and Richard Rosenthal Center for Contemporary Art in Cincinnati, Ohio, the 85,000 square foot, 7,900 square meter center, which opened in 2003, was the first American museum designed by a woman. Essentially a vertical series of cubes and voids, the museum is located in the middle of Cincinnati's downtown area. The side that faces the street has a translucent glass facade that invites passersby to look in on the workings of the museum, and thereby contradicts the notion of the museum as an uninviting or remote space. The building's plan gently curves upwards after the visitors enters the building, which in Hadid said she hopes that this would create an urban carpet that welcomes people into the museum. In 2010, Hadid's boldly imaginative design for Maxi Museum of Contemporary Art and Architecture in Rome earned her the Royal Institute of British Architects Sterling Prize for the best building by a British architect completed in the past year.
In 2011, she won a second Sterling Prize for a sleek structure she conceived for Evelyn Grace Academy, a secondary school in London. In addition to the Pritzker Prize and the Sterling Prize, her numerous awards included the Japan Arts Association's Premium Imperiale Prize for Architecture in 2009 and the Royal Gold Medal for Architecture in 2016, RIBA's highest honor.
You will be able to watch videos of the events of the past 2 days.
It's also fantastic that I'm acknowledged for work which was really not mainstream, was very deliberately trying to question all the things that people took for granted, and to in a way weave a way through kind of a new urban life in the city, which was to do with kind of connectivity and malleability and accessibility.
Hadid was a member of the Encyclopedia Britannica editorial board of advisors, and in 2012, she was made a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire.
One of her most famous design is her fluid undulating design for the Heydar Aliyev Center, a cultural center that opened in 2012 in Baku, Azerbaijan, won the London's Museum Design of the Year in 2014, She was the first woman to earn that award, which judges designs in architecture, furniture, fashion, graphics and product, and transportation. And the design was the first from the architecture category. The center houses a conference hall, auditorium, a gallery hall, and a museum. The project is intended to play an integral role in the intellectual life of the city. It is the distinctive architecture, flowing curve style that eschews sharp angles.
It's a completely immersive field. It's re-examining the idea of the block. So it's no longer a perimeter block. It's not a podium with a tower. It's very exhilarating. Also, it can be very calming. It's like going to the park because it has that kind of rock-like, landscape-like quality, fluid quality. We found very good people to do all the tiling, which is vacuum formed. I think that the idea was to kind of make a completely seamless building. So the landscape literally crawls up the edge of the building and becomes like a mountain.
Heydar Aliyev Center had an official opening ceremony on the 10th May of 2012, held by the current president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev. An internationally recognized architectural work, the building of the Heydar Aliyev Center has become a signature landmark of modern Baku due to its innovative and cutting-edge design. Extending on the 8 floor levels, the center accommodates a 1,000-seat auditorium, temporarily an exhibition space and a conference center, workshops, and a museum. The building was nominated for awards in 2013 at both the World Architecture Festival and the Benayal Eye Insight Festival.
Hadid taught architecture at many places, including the Architectural Association, Harvard University, the University of Chicago, and Yale University. She also designed furniture, jewelry, footwear, bags, interior spaces such as restaurants and stage sets. Notably for the 2014 Los Angeles Philharmonic production of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's Così fan tutte.
Unfortunately, Zaha Hadid died at the age of 65. The world-renowned architect had suffered from a heart attack while she was being treated for bronchitis. Her last project was a newly completed hyper-luxurious condominium tower, the most distinctive building in the Miami 305. 1000 Museum is Hadid's last project in the United States. She had visited the construction site days before her untimely death in 2016. The Starcitec's presence is felt throughout the edifice. The common areas are sprinkled with inspirational quotes and radical furniture from Hadid, as well as oversized vases and other objects from her home collection. We can see her design evolve from a more geometric shape into a fluid organic shape throughout her project.
No, I mean, of course, you know, in the office, the team has changed. I mean, we were 10 people, and now we are 400 people. So the dynamic is not the same, you know, and also the work method has changed. You know, before we used to do, let's say, a lot of sketching and model making and painting, and now a lot of it is done kind of through computer. Not because the computer is taken over, it's just that it's a different method of work. It might come up with a similar product, but I think it's different. And also, I always believed in teamwork, so it's not that, you know, there's kind of the hand of the master and then the others will work it out. It doesn't work like that. It works like, you know, a group of people as a team come together, they put ideas together and we test them out and see what works best.
After her sudden death from a heart attack in 2016, Hadid left 36 unfinished projects in which her business partner, Patrick Schumacher, assumed leadership of her firm.
How we're moving forward is maintaining research, maintaining innovative thrust, but in the context where we are already delivering what I call global best practice, very mature, sophisticated products for the most demanding, high performance, high value arenas. With this team still quite young, we have a lot of energy and power to surge forward. The kind of organization we are is unprecedented and has yet to evolve. The principles of parametricism are universally valid and applicable, but they're more urgent in some arenas than in others. So a stadium, yes, is interesting, but overall it's a relatively simple event. You move in, sit down, watch a game, you move out, rather than something which collaborates in intricate ways. The most difficult and challenging, high density, high value, high communicative capacity, high integralness of the spaces is what we are about. Ideally, what is missing in our portfolio is, of course, Google, and we are pitching for Google Campus. And in the end, when there's shows Bjarke and Thomas, what they're coming up with is very much what I've actually already developed at the GSD with my students as a scenario. It's kind of cloud-like, sponge-like, three-dimensional interior urbanism. Here we have a large number of people actually cooperating in an intricate division of labor, which requires a lot of continuous awareness of what everybody's doing with respect to what everybody else is doing. Every space communicates with every other space. That's the kind of vision of an architecture which I want to deliver.
Assuring the completion and the existing commissions and the procurement of the new ones. 24 of the projects were already in the construction phase. The Salerno Maritime Terminal, the Port House in Antwerp, and the Interior Design Mathematics Gallery of the Science Museum in London are now finished.